On Tuesday, during the United Nations Conference on Disarmament, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil called for an end to international sanctions against his country and urged respect for the sovereignty of states. The Foreign Minister declared that Venezuela, as a signatory to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, reaffirms that collective security must be based on cooperation, not coercive mechanism. In this context, Iván Gil demanded that the United States immediately release Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores, who were kidnapped on January 3rd in flagrant violation of international law. The foreign minister emphasized that the Venezuelan authorities opened a diplomatic channel with the United States to resolve differences in a dialogue that respects sovereignty and self-determination. In his address before the United Nations, Venezuela's Foreign Minister Iván Gil denounced the United States military attack carried out against the Bolivarian nation on January 3rd.
Unilateral coercive measures against Venezuela have been applied as a form of economic aggression that violates national sovereignty and international law. The aim is to suffocate the state and force political changes, directly impacting the human rights and well-being of the civilian population. This methodology of destabilization, coordinated with various actors within and outside the region, is a well-known practice in contemporary history with profoundly disruptive consequences for international stability. The bombing of January 3, 2026 against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela constituted an act of armed aggression. In accordance with General Assembly Resolution 33/14, the world witnessed the murder of more than 100 people, both military personnel and civilians, in violation of international law and international humanitarian law.
The Venezuelan government denounced the events that took place in Panama, where the Venezuelan diplomatic bag was forcibly opened at Tocumen International Airport in Panama City. In a statement, the government declared, "This act constitutes a direct and flagrant violation of the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, whose Article 27 clearly establishes the inviolability of diplomatic bags, which cannot be opened or retained under any circumstances." In addition, the Venezuelan government asserted that the immunity of diplomatic communication is an essential principle for coexistence among nations. Its violations sets dangerous precedents that affects the legal security of our missions and undermines the right to identity of the Venezuelan community residing in Panama. The communication specified that the Bolivarian government demands full guarantees of non-repetition and urges the Panamanian authorities to strictly comply with the rules governing diplomatic and cultural activity, considering the will expressed by both governments to reactivate the consular services. On Tuesday, Acting President Delcy Rodriguez visited the economic and tourist area of Falcón State, where she emphasized the importance of environmental care. For Morocco National Park, the acting president referred to the government's policies for the preservation of the ecological zone and the need for their implementation. In this regard, Delcy Rodriguez emphasized the importance of working on measures for environmental preservation and the development of sustainable tourism. The acting president also held a meeting with fishermen, thanking them for providing them food for people of Venezuela and caring for nature through plastic management initiatives.
First of all, Minister Loyo, thank our fishermen and fisherwomen once again. They are the guardians of our seas, of our Caribbean Sea. And they also have a responsibility to provide food for the people of Venezuela. We must thank them. But also, since 2023, they have had this very important plastic fishing program, Fish Your Plastic. There are some shocking statistics. There are 1.5 billion tons of plastic in the oceans and seas.
China tightens its exports control on Japan amidst rising tension over Japan's military buildup and the risk of conflict in the region. From Beijing, our correspondent Bruno Falchi brings us more details.
Greetings, comrades. From here, Beijing, I bring you the details on the recent decision by the Chinese government to add 20 Japanese companies to its export control list. The measure aims to protect national security and halt what Beijing considers Japan's attempts to rearm and develop nuclear weapons. Export operators will be prohibited from sending dual-use goods to these entities, and overseas organizations or individuals must suspend any transfers of Chinese products to its companies. Mao Ning, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, stated the following.
To safeguard national security and our interests and to comply with international obligations such as nuclear non-proliferation, China has taken measures in accordance with our laws and regulations. The purpose is to stop Japan's attempts to rearm and possess nuclear weapons. These measures are completely legitimate, justified, and legal.
These measures reflect Beijing's determination to protect regional stability against strategic moves that it considers risky. Meanwhile, Japan maintains its policy of military build-up, spending nearly $48 billion annually to modernize its naval and air force and expand its missile capability, which China interprets as a direct threat to the regional security. With this news from here, the capital of China, we go back with you in the studios.
President Claudia Sheinbaum presented on Wednesday an electoral reform bill that will be sent to the National Congress to begin debate. The head of the Presidential Commission for Electoral Reform, Pablo Gomez, revealed that 181 people directly linked to the Mexican electoral system participated in the consultations for the drafting of the new law. He also explained that the will of the people has led to a new measure for exercising power, while the implementation of the social program has changed political relationships. The initiative was developed over 6 months by the Commission with the aim of changing the country's electoral system. The Mexican Congress approved on Tuesday a constitutional reform to reduce the work week from 48 to 40 hours, a long-standing debt to the country's working class. The bill was passed with a total of 469 votes in favor in the 500-member lower house after it was unanimously approved by the Senate. The proposal was first revealed by President Claudia Sheinbaum in December 2025-11, and pushback from business leaders delayed the discussion for the weeks. The rollout begins in 2027, reducing work time by 2 hours each year until 2030. The policy seeks to raise productivity, lift consumer spending, and improve quality of life instead of relying on longer hours. About 34.4 million workers, particularly manufacturing, retail, hospitality, and construction, will face shorter hours and higher wages. The United States President Donald Trump concluded his State of the Union address on Tuesday night, emphasizing the issues of the economy and security, and without mentioning the social crisis affecting millions of people in the country. The speech, strongly marked by the neoliberal and imperialist rhetoric of the Trump administrations, provided details of the president's actions in the current term to the U.S. legislature. In this context, the president continues his offensive against the migrant community in the country, blaming them for the nation's problems, in addition to announcing in the midst of a fentanyl crisis easier access and lower prices for the purchase of prescription medications. Iran dismissed the new United States allegation about its nuclear and missile activities and the number of people killed during recent riots as a series of big lies, and announced what it called a coordinated disinformation campaign against the country. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Ismail Baghei said on X Wednesday that the repeated allegation made by U.S. official and Israeli regime rely on the deliberate creation of a false reality and compared them to Nazi Joseph Goebbels' methods of propaganda. Baghei's statements came after comments by United States President Donald Trump, who claimed in a speech to Congress that Iran was working on ballistic missiles capable of reaching United States territory and threatening Europe and United States bases abroad. In this context, a senior Iranian military official warned the United States not to mistake Iran for other countries and affirmed that Tehran would respond decisively to any act of aggression. The political deputy of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces Ideological Political Office, Brigadier General Rasul Sanairad, said that the recent movements of United States naval forces in the region will not intimidate Iran. He also stressed that Washington misjudges Iran's capabilities and public resolve, and that any military miscalculation would bring heavy material and reputational cost for the United States. Washington began its war rhetoric against Iran after recent economic protests in the country, which were hijacked by foreign spy agencies and turned violent. China celebrates an unprecedented milestone today. 5 years ago, President Xi Jinping declared the total eradication of extreme poverty in the country, and now they have the highest common prosperity index on the planet. On February 25, 2021, the Chinese leader asserted that 850 million people had been lifted out of extreme poverty. The announcement also came amidst an economic recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic. The offensive against poverty has been a fundamental pillar of the Communist Party since 1949 and the basis of its political legitimacy. 5 years after declaring this victory, the country continues to build on its achievements. On Tuesday, during the United Nations Conference on Disarmament, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil called for an end to international sanctions against his country and urged respect for the sovereignty of states. The Foreign Minister declared that Venezuela, as a signatory to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, reaffirms that collective security must be based